So welcome everyone. I really am excited for this topic. As today's topic is let's talk about love. And I'm sure that love is something that we are so passionate to experience and also to give love to somebody else. And the Valentine's Day, it was on Monday, the 14th. So it's also exciting. Um, to speak about love as well, especially at this time of the year. And I would like to introduce, we have three couples who are going to answer some questions for us. I want to introduce first, well, I'll let Adam and Heather introduce themselves first. So tell us something about yourselves. What church do you come from?
No, you go first.
Okay, I'm Heather. I grew up in Belfast Church, but I am now in Ranelagh Church. And something about myself, I like to do crafting. I do lots of crafts.
Me. Hi, I'm Mr. Romantic. No, I'm joking. I'm Adam. I'm married to Heather, and we have two children. And I'm the least romantic person in the world.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you have a Heather, so it's a balance, I'm sure. I see Heather agreeing. Now the second couple we have is Ben and his wife Joy. So can you introduce yourselves and what church are you in?
I'm stuck with him. He's the pastor of Cork and Tralee. I'm Joy. What was the other question about?
What church are you attending in Cork?
Yeah, Cork and Tralee. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
And Tralee. Yeah.
Interesting. Is there any interesting facts about you that you would like to share?
We have two children. There's a very big gap between them. One is 19, the other one is 7. Our youngest has autism, and I like music. I love Jesus.
And the kitchen.
And the kitchen, sometimes I make good food, sometimes not.
She makes good food. Yeah.
Oh, so it's you who love the kitchen, not her. And our last couple is Tony and his lovely wife Betty.
Okay, before Pastor Tony and Betty, yeah, my name is Ben. I'm Joy's husband. All right, and I'm intentionally romantic.
Joy, would you agree?
It's okay.
Intentionally, because it does not come naturally, so it must be intentional.
He's okay.
I'm growing with it.
That's very interesting. But I'm sure that Joy appreciates the effort. It's the effort that counts, you know. And yes, now Tony and Betty, what church do you come from?
Well, we've actually got 3 churches. We've got Galway, Longford, and Newmarket and Fergus. So yeah, so that's why we're always on the road, I think. And obviously I'm married to Tony, and we're parents of 4 children. Well, we're all adults, and then we're also grandparents to 4 children as well, our daughter's children. So yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. And are there any interesting facts about you?
Oh, there's lots, but I won't list them all.
A few will do, a few will help.
No, I like gardening, and I'm a bit like Heather. I like using my sewing machine here at times, and I like walking. They're my main things. I grandchildren quite a lot, so I love doing that as well. Yeah.
Especially when I tear my jacket. First thing is, has to be sorted out.
Oh, you're sewing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, are you finished, Lily?
Yes.
Anything else you want to share? Well, okay, my name is Tony. As Betty said, I pastor 3 churches in the West. And I like the outdoors, actually. I love outdoors. I like camping. I love anything that's got to do with rivers or lakes where I can just be very much at peace, away from all the hustle and bustle. And obviously, I love Sabbath. I have to say, I love Sabbath. I love Sabbath always. I always find a blessing in Sabbath. You come into Sabbath after a busy week, and for some reason or other, you do feel rested, even though Pastor Ben would confirm this. It's probably our busiest time, but yet I always feel energized and refreshed after a Sabbath day. So I think that's one thing that I really like as well.
Oh,
We have 4 children, so the same children, okay?
that's important. um, that's very nice, and it's very nice that you are here. And thank you guys for agreeing to this. It's lovely to get to know each one of the couple here. So now we have a little game that we would like. The game is called "Who is most likely to." So I'm gonna read some statements, and you're gonna point either at yourself or your partner who is most likely to do something. For example, which one of you is most likely to be late to an event? Heather, see Joy.
I'm very patient in waiting,
No.
but it's definitely Joy.
It's passive aggressive waiting.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm waiting for you here, are you ready?
No, I know. Read it in his face.
Yeah, I'll run the car already. Let her know that there is fuel being consumed while waiting.
You beep the horn as well.
No,
Not
I haven't been there
Not
yet.
at that level yet.
I haven't been there yet. Yeah.
Who is most likely to laugh in an awkward situation? Heather. Oh.
No.
Awkward situation.
Yeah.
That would
No,
be me.
I don't know. Maybe me.
Laughter is my coping mechanism, so I will laugh. If you see me laughing a lot, you know that I'm nervous.
Yes.
She was just laughing a lot.
Yeah.
What about Tony and Betty? Who is most likely to laugh in an awkward situation?
I'm for a laugh is cry, I say. So yeah, I just make a joke of it because we make fools of ourselves quite a lot of times. So yeah, I think both of us can laugh at ourselves. Yeah.
In an awkward situation.
In an awkward situation, yeah.
We wouldn't get too panicky.
And this is something really serious now. We have to be solemn. Generally speaking, I wouldn't take it too seriously. No.
Yeah. And who is most likely to crack a joke at the meeting?
Meeting. Yeah. Or, I don't know, maybe me.
No, you don't crack jokes.
I don't go to meetings, so. It's so hard to answer that question.
I mean, it's mostly me.
Yeah,
To
maybe.
pick up on something and make a joke out of it.
That's the thing. The meetings that he goes to, I don't go. So I don't know what he does at his meetings.
He cracks jokes, Joy.
Okay, thank you.
I can confirm that.
With Pastor Adam's cue. Normally he goes first and then I followed it up.
He breaks the ice.
We have competitions cracking bad jokes.
Yeah.
And the last one, who is most likely to get lost while going to the new
Definitely.
place?
Joy.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely Joy.
Oh, I see Betty. I see Tony voting as Betty.
I worked on community, you know, nursing a few years back. I used to have to write down all the directions for the patient's house, and then I had to think in reverse how I get back to base again. That was so hard. Yeah, I have to have markers. If I go somewhere I've never been before, I have to make markers for myself to find my way back to the car or whatever. Yeah, I am bad. I've always been like that. I can't do jigsaws at all. I'm useless at jigsaws, so something not quite there, something missing.
I'm not alone then in that regard. Sometimes when Ben drives the car and then he's coming from another part of the section,
from another point of
And-
view or the same area.
and then he'd say to me, you know,
Yeah.
get ready and you'll be surprised. So I was like, what am
So-
I going to be surprised?
So when we're driving, I would ask her, "Do you know where we are? Do you know where we are?"
No,
And
I
then
say
she would
no.
say no. And then wait, just a minute, wait. When we turn in that corner, you'll be surprised where we are.
And I was like, how did that happen?
Like, how did we get here? Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Heather doesn't have that problem. Heather.
Oh, I get lost all the time. Even when I go back to Belfast now, where I grew up, I still struggle to find my way around. And in fact, we had a friend who moved to Belfast from Sri Lanka, and within less than 6 months, she would come in my car with me, and she knew where to go all over Belfast, and she would direct me, and I wouldn't have a clue where I was going. So
Right.
in Dublin, I really struggle navigating around anywhere in Dublin.
Right.
You can find the next door neighbours, okay? See, there's a joke. Sorry.
So you're proving your point here. Thank you very much for participating in this game. I think it's one of the favorite things that I like to do is ask couples these questions: who is most likely to do certain things? And I really hope you enjoyed it, because I know I did. And so our next section is going to be Q&A, question and answer. And I believe that this is for whether there are single people here watching. I'm sure there are. And if there are people who are also couples in relationships watching, I'm sure this is going to be very useful for everyone. And I'm sure that you are going to give us some great tips and advices through these questions. So my first question is, how did you meet your spouse? Maybe Tony and Betsy, you can start. How did you meet each other?
Okay, so how did we meet each other? We met at a social event in a town called Portlaoise, which is in the Midlands. I'm from that area generally. And I just finished my first nursing qualification. And I thought, you know, it's time for me to meet somebody now. I'm not doing any exams at the moment. So he just came along at the opportune time. He had really long, I should probably say, he had really long red curly hair down to his shoulders. And he was very hippie looking. So he was very different to the guys around our area, which is a farming community. So straight away, I thought, this guy's very unusual. So, yeah.
Like,
You were a hippie, Pastor.
I was,
a bit of a hippie. Yeah.
Whoa.
like John the Baptist.
Oh, we're learning something new here, Tony. Pastor Tony.
Learned too much.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were standing out.
He's-
That's a good thing.
Yeah, he definitely stood out. But I thought, where did this guy come out of in this outfit? He had real hippie clothes, I remember.
I used to wear a lot of camouflage gear.
He didn't dress like anybody that I'd seen, any
was
man I'd seen
undercover.
or fella I'd seen before. So he definitely made an impression,
I
yes.
was on a mission. I was on a mission to find a woman in these.
That was because he couldn't find a woman in Galway. Was that the story? I know.
That's how we met. Anyhow. Yeah.
Oh, so you had to travel a long time to find her.
Oh, I tell you, I was wore out.
I hope you didn't wait too long or go too, traveling too much.
My heart was very tired. And I don't.
Oh.
That's really nice story. And what about Joy and Ben? How did you two meet?
This it's a
Very
very unusual story there,
unconventional
unconventional
story.
story. But the short of it is that we met in the classroom. Joy just graduated from her nursing, and I was about to graduate from my theology degree, and she was asked to teach music in our college, in the College of Theology. And I cannot graduate without taking that music class. So Joy actually became my teacher, and that's
There.
where we met. Yeah.
When we told this
But
story,
it's very interesting because I was with a group of first year, very new college students because I was about to graduate, and I was actually kind of the church pastor there already in that college as well, but I was still a student. So pretty much I was Joy's student. Yeah. when
not
we
pretty
met.
much. He was my student.
Yeah.
The thing was, yeah, when we told somebody about this story, in Belfast, they said, "Isn't that unethical?" And they're like, "That's right, that's right." But that's the thing when it's a small college in the Philippines, and it's a Seventh-day Adventist college, and if if you know someone, they hire you. But I was just there to fill in because I didn't have music qualifications. But
I was
very
already
long story.
I was already in my 20s. I was an
Yeah.
adult when we met.
He's trying to.
Let me just qualify
He's
that.
trying to justify. So yeah.
So the short of the long story is that I courted my teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
sorry.
went
So
straight. I
sorry.
went straight for my teacher.
So sorry to those who have idealistic. This isn't ideal.
Well, that's surely the story we don't hear every day. So I'm sure it's for me it's very interesting. And before I move on to Adam and Heather, I would like to say that anybody who wants to ask questions, you can post them in the chat as well, or you can send it to me directly. And we also have the Slido. The link is in the chat, so we will be tracking that later. So if you want to ask questions, you can ask them. And now, Adam and Heather, how did you two meet?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, and Heather can tell you the full story. I was walking along the street when I was 9, and Heather saw me and came chasing after me.
No, it's a lie. we knew each other from when we were kids, going to camps and youth weekends, and then but I didn't like Adam at all. Adam was a weird child, and
I still am, by the way,
and then
a weird child.
His family moved to England, and then he came back as my pastor. And when he came back as my pastor, I was like, I'm not being a pastor's wife. But
she was over 18.
I didn't want to be the pastor's wife, and I didn't really like you at all. But then we became friends, and love grew.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, that's the truth. We went out for our first date to an ice hockey game, and Heather brought her brother along with us because she didn't want to be alone with me.
I bought my brother drinks and snacks.
Heather, sorry, tell the truth. You paid your brother to go with you?
I paid my brother to go on our first date with me and Adam, not because it was a chaperone, but it was because I didn't want to go on a first date with him.
Yeah, that's the truth. My one was the lie.
Yeah, but you know, Heather, it's not the first time I hear that. I heard other people doing that as well. Well, unfortunate, fortunate, I don't know. But it ended up well for you too, I have to say. Look at you now, married and 2 kids. So my next question is, and be honest in this one, did you pray for your future spouse?
That's the answer. That's
No. Well, I to be honest, I can't remember.
You had a list.
I had a list of that comes down later on. That's
okay.
That's like question 4 or something. But no. I don't think I did. But I guess it depends what you mean. Did you pray for them? I didn't pray to find them. I don't think. Probably not. I might have done. Like I was praying, but not maybe specifically about that. I can't remember.
And I would have prayed when me and Adam got together, or were in the process of getting together, to make sure it was the right thing, because it wasn't just dating somebody in church or outside church or whatever. It was dating the pastor. So that was something I prayed about when we were in that sort of friendship phase. Would it develop into something else? Was this God's plan? So that was probably when I prayed about our relationship. But I didn't pray to find a husband.
For our relationship, I remember before I met him that I just wanted a man who loved God. That was my very naive prayer, but a man who loved God, who would love God more than he would love me. So that was my prayer. But I don't think he prayed for anyone.
Yeah, I did not pray to meet someone. Yeah, I did not pray. I was in my early 20s. I was quite young. I thought, I still have many years ahead before really finding someone serious. But when I met Joy, that's when I prayed for her. I mean, I
Yeah.
prayed because, I think I demanded from God to give Joy to me. So when I met her, I think I remember it was a very sincere and honest prayer. This is the woman that I want, Lord. Something like that.
Thank you for this
Yeah.
platform, because now I know.
But before I met her, no. To me it was like, I will enjoy my singleness in the pastoral ministry, and then maybe God will at some point, show someone to me that will help me in the ministry. But then I met her.
I remember that there was a point where, he was cute, and I was like, he really is so cute. But then when there was a point that it got serious, and then I was confronted with the idea that we were not going to be just for the happy times, but there was a prospect that we were going to get married, that we were going to be together, and I was scared about that. And I prayed really hard. I said, and I thought kind of like what Heather prayed for, something like that. So confronted with the seriousness of getting married, not just for the fun of having a relationship together, like something like that. It was very serious. It felt very serious.
And I think when we got together, that's when there was a lot of prayer, because it was no longer about just being in a casual relationship. Immediately, I realized that there was a level of seriousness to it, that this is probably going to be it. All right. And I think it was the same with Joy as well, that realization that this is probably going to be it. Now, we did not mention Joy is actually older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one too, because my ideal was I wanted to get married to someone who was a bit older, like 2 years older. And I have two brothers younger than me, and his age skipped my second brother, my brother next to me, and then my second brother is his age. And I was like, I feel like I'm dating my younger brother, which is
And Joy's,
very weird.
Joy's younger brother was my best friend in college. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give now to Pastor Tony.
Pastor Tony, go ahead.
I don't think we prayed as such, because we both come out of a Catholic background, and I had been spending some time thinking about being a monk. So you can imagine that was where I was coming from, a little bit, that mindset maybe. But I do believe my grandmother was praying for me, all along. So I think that's who was doing the praying, and I was doing the searching, if you know what I mean. I don't know what you were doing, but
I wasn't praying. I didn't. You see, it comes from a Catholic background. It didn't occur. If it was all again now, I would invent this. It would be very different, So we come from a different culture, I suppose, different religious background. So I wasn't praying, but I was wishing and hoping to meet somebody, a proper, meet. So that's what I was hoping. I'll tell you about it later. So, so that was really what I wanted to meet somebody that I, could settle down with. Really, I got in mind straight away after doing my first day, finish my first exams and getting my finals. I thought it's time to, meet somebody, because at that time you were expected to settle down. At that age, just find somebody anyway. It's an expectation. So anyway, it was love at first sight. That I do know, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely.
You have to agree to that. Choice. It was love at first chance. Yeah, well, at first glance, I should say. I did fall in love with him because he was so crazy looking. You're so.
I did say. I didn't say it at the time. I was short-sighted. You know that.
Well, yeah, but prayer didn't come into it. I'm sorry to say. We prayed a lot of times since we got married, but prayer didn't come into it. But only because that was our background. As I say, in a different context. Yeah.
Oh wow, each story is so unique, and I'm sure that's one of the encouragement for single people who are watching this, because I'm sure that like 3 different couples, 3 different stories, and I'm sure that many single people who are watching this are wondering how is their story going to be, and it's one of the exciting things here. What qualities were you looking for your future partner? Joy, I see you laughing. Do you want to start?
Very, very superficial qualities, really. Like, I want him to be, because I'm not tall. I wanted him to be tall, played basketball, intelligent, good looking, very superficial. Yeah, those things. Very superficial.
But did you find all of them in me?
Yeah. You know what? As young people, we can be very naive with what we want in a person. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but when you're young, you have all these things like you want to check. You have a checklist for what you want in a person, and then the Lord is very the Lord is very kind, because then He says, and then He says, I'll give you much more. He gives much more. That's what I know. He gives much more. And then your superficial stuff, very superficial. There are more important things that should be that should be ticked in your list.
Do I have to say something as well?
If you want.
Yeah, I don't think before I met Joe, I don't think I had a list of qualities that I
I'm
want
so
to
happy
find.
to hear that.
Yeah, I want to find in a woman. Because again, I cannot remember that a woman was in my mind before I met her. I had some relationships before I met Joy, but nothing serious. So there was really not that kind of perspective where, okay, I want these qualities in a woman, in someone that I'm going to marry. All right. But when I met Joy, I just knew then that she has the qualities that will make me happy. And at the same time, I think there was this realization that I think I have the qualities that can make Joy happy as well. Because to me, when I met her, I knew that it was something that uh, there is this idea that God wants us to be happy in relationships. All right. God wants us to be happy in marriage. And I just knew then that I will be happy in this relationship, that I will be happy in this marriage. And so, yeah.
I'm just glad he's not very, his standards. So some people have very, very high standards. I'm glad that it's not really like that, because I'm really happy. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, and Adam and Heather, did you have some qualities that you were looking for in your spouse?
Well, I had a list. I'm sorry. It was nearly full A4 page, actually.
Oh,
It got developed over a few years while I was studying, because when I was at Newbold, we used to compare lists. But and I kept breaking up with people, and my dad said to me one day when I was talking to him on the phone, he said, you're not being very, what was the word? No, he said, you're not going to let anything last, are you? As if I was just not finding happiness because of my lists were too long. But looking back on it, it was the thing I did at the time, and it was maybe mature for me to do at the time, or immature for me to do at the time. I'm not sure which one, but as I look back on it now, I'm like, the list really wasn't important, right? Because it was silly things on the list, like how tall they're going to be or what they're going to look like, and, you know, and things. So it was very superficial things. And I realize now that those things are they were important actually at the time in some ways. But then when I found the person, they became not important in a sense, because the personality was always out trumped the list too, you know.
And for me, I only really had, before I met Adam, I suppose my one quality was that I wanted somebody who treated me like their equal, because I had been in a relationship with someone for 3.5 years, and I found that I always was the person that had to give, that I always, if there was any problems or any troubles, I was the one that had to go the extra mile to help in that relationship. Whereas when that relationship ended, that was the one thing that sort of came out for me, was I want somebody who views my opinions, my choices, my decisions as equal to theirs. So that was the one quality I was looking for in someone. And I did find that.
Really? That's good.
One other thing. That's I'm very happy to see that, you know, whether you had a list or didn't have a list. Adam, one question that I want to ask: when you mentioned that you used to compare lists, was yours the longest?
Yeah. One of his friends actually, that one of his friends who knew us both but knew us separately, didn't know us as a couple, said to me one time, "Oh, I remember Adam's list at Newbold." And
really?
And you're not the person that was on that list. Because I always had a little bit of a rebellious nature, and Adam was looking for a woman who was,
really,
you know,
to be honest, I can't remember anything that was on my list.
And I was told what was on this list, and I was like, I definitely didn't fit that list.
Well, I'm happy that at the end you found the person, you know, whether it was on the list or not on the list, that, you know, sometimes I think that we as people, we are looking for somebody, you know, and we have that idea in our heads, at least in our heads. But then when we meet somebody completely different, you know, it doesn't mean it's not the right person. You can still be compatible, you know. And as you said, you're just the proof of that. What about Betty and Tony? What qualities were you looking for in the person you're going to marry?
Well, we definitely didn't have any list that I'm aware of anyhow so far. I don't think there was any list. I didn't have a list anyway. But just look for someone that you can talk to and listen, and a sense of humor. He used to have a great sense of humor. I don't know, he's so busy, but good sense of humor, that's very important. And we're very similar. We're from very similar backgrounds as well, you know, farming communities. And we both come from, like, I come from a family of 9, he comes from a family of 10, and both of us are the second eldest in the family, just so happened. And so we had a lot in common straight away. You know, you could identify with I suppose, our families and backgrounds and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I was looking for someone who would be sincere and a hard worker as well, and reliable and trustworthy. Definitely, yeah, that would be my head for sure. Yeah.
I was just looking for a good-hearted woman. Someone that just was quite funny as well. She had a good sense of humor. And I think that's really it. Now, I wasn't really I didn't come from a farm background.
Well, your family are farmers, that's what I meant.
No, I come from, my father was a builder. And we had a small farm. But no, I think I didn't really have a list. I think we just met and we got on together and we enjoyed each other's company. And as we got to know each other, we just realized, what each person liked, I guess. And I think with respect, I tell you, Betty is a very organized person and I'm not. So that's the type of thing, I wouldn't be as organized, but I would be, I think you asked the question, if something went wrong, I think I would be the one that wouldn't panic. So
I definitely would.
Yeah. So we balance each other out that way quite well. And I think we didn't expect, to be, that we behave a certain way. I think we got to know each other and we respected each other where they were. And I think we grew in that relationship. And that's where it was, I think. There was no this. And there was just a question of accepting where we were and try to understand in what our likes and dislikes were and what would be the wrong thing to do, I guess, what wouldn't be accepted, I guess. Yeah.
And since Ben, Adam, and Tony, since we are talking to a couple who pastors, so, and I know for Heather you didn't want to marry a pastor. So my question is, how do you successfully balance church ministry with family life, and particularly with cultivating your romantic relationship?
I don't.
It's a challenge.
That's quite that simple.
It is a challenge because it's not like they have a job that finishes at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, if we go out for dinner or something, he needs to make sure his phone is on mute because he gets phone calls all the time and there's always something that has to be dealt with, and a pastoral job is pretty much 24/7, so it's trying to get him to take time off and to shut down from that for a bit.
Yeah. It's not easy for a pastoral family, I don't think, and maybe it's just my nature, maybe everybody else finds it easy, but I think in any kind of relationship you need to set aside time to cultivate it, right? Whether it's friendships or whether it's romantic relationships or whatever. And I guess that's sometimes the challenge, is setting aside kind of time, because maybe if I take time off in the morning, for example, right, that's when Heather's working. If I say, I'm going to take Tuesday morning off, then, or Wednesday morning off, then she's down at the Kushler Centre or something. So it's not not easy for pastoral families, I think, but then it's not easy for anyone, right? You have to, whoever it is, whatever job you're in, you have to set aside time to grow relationships. Yeah.
Does anybody else something to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that when it comes to getting time together, you have to really think it through intentionally. And sometimes the best thing to do is to leave the country. You go somewhere, because Pastor Adam and Pastor Vin will relate to this. If you're in the country and you get a phone call, you're going to answer the call. Generally you're going to, or else you're going to, it's going to just one of these things where you feel that you need to address it. So if you're out of the country, you make some plans with the elders and you know that you're actually going to have some time together. So I found that for the best thing to have a time together is to plan it, that you're going to be missing in action, literally. You're going to be gone and you're going to have some time together. But we do try to, I think it's important to still have time, like we try to get Sunday. I know there's lots of meetings now with Zoom and that, because before you'd have to intentionally travel somewhere to have meetings, but now we have to watch because, like, I think I had two Zooms meetings this day, and it's another format of keeping us busy, I'm afraid. But at the same time, we would try to have Sunday free, but that's getting a bit difficult now as well because there's meetings on Sundays as well. So it's getting a bit it's difficult. But unless we make some plans that we're going to do something, generally it'll always be something else that will take that time. So I think it's important that we try to make time to be together because we can be very busy. And I think for especially young people, I really feel for young pastors, I have to say, because if you have a family and you're new in ministry, it's a tough place to be, I will tell you that much, because it's just the husband and wife needs that time together, time where they can talk and be intimate. It's just different.
Why at the same time?
So it's very important that we do make time to have a little bit of a break and time with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that the relationships about is like you have to be selfless, but I assume here that the wives need to be even more selfless than usual because like I imagine that like you want to have your husband all the time with you, well, most of the time, not all the time, but now even that little time that you have, sometimes you have to give it up.
And I have to agree with Pastor Tony. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional with it. Because there are times, I would tell Joy that tomorrow we're going to have family time. And then when tomorrow comes, she would ask me, so is today really family time? Because sometimes she would see me still on my laptop, doing some office work or sending emails or replying to emails or stuff like that. And so you have to be intentional with it. And I think especially lately now, recognizing that Ron is going to university very soon, and he's not going to be with us in a few months' time. So we haven't really, making time for going for walks together or going for meals together or sharing a meal at home together. In the past, we could we'll just eat our meals by ourselves. But now, intentionally, we try our very best to actually sit on around the table and share a meal together, which have been have been a blessing to us as a family.
Yeah.
I see a question there. It says, "Were you all Adventists before seeing each other?" No, we weren't. Betty and I weren't Adventists at all. We were brought up in a Catholic background. It was years later before we came into the Adventist faith. So I hope that answers your question. So, yeah.
And I see somebody in the comments said the question, but I had one that actually relates to that. So like, how do you navigate your marital, whether marital or premarital relationship when both of you are initially not Adventists, but then one of you becomes an Adventist?
Well, I think we were looking at that aspect because we got baptized together. We were in the church. We came into the church at the same time, and then we got baptized on the same day. So I think this is important. I think this is very important because I see sometimes where people are Adventists and the other, maybe the partner or whether it be the girl or the spouse or whatever would be of a different faith. And I think where people think we can work this out, it can be difficult. This is the thing, when you have two different churches, maybe one on Sunday and one on Saturday, it can be difficult. And I see people finding that strain in their relationship at times. But I think from our point of view, both of us came from a Catholic background. I was in a few other churches before the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and Betty would come along, but she wasn't really in the other churches as such. But when we came to the Adventist Church, we came together, we got baptized together, and 31 years later, we're still together in the church. So praise God for that. So yeah, that's where we come from. Yeah, that's our.
I think the desire to one of the things that you want to have in a relationship is you have loads of things in common. And one of the things, for example, if you share the same faith, that's one less burden that you have to, worry about, because you have that thing in common, the faith in common, because there will be many other things that you'll need to disagree on, you'll have different values. Sorry. Look is okay, sorry. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say, that if you can avoid that burden, because there will be many other things that you'll need to work on together as a couple, that would be good. But then the Bible also says that if you come from the different faiths, I think Paul said, please help me out, pastors, but that one of the apostles says that you can be a blessing to your spouse, and that spouse will get to know more about God through you, something like that. So that can be an opportunity, that can be a blessing, but also understanding that that can be a burden too. It's like one of the take up your cross and follow me. One of those things, the burdens you'll have to carry when you don't have the same faith. Yeah.
And I have to say, from a pastoral perspective, the moment you found Christ, the moment you become a Christian or you become an Adventist, simply show them what the Christian love is all about, who Christ is in the life that you live. Show them love and love them. Because sometimes, there is this tendency for us to impose our faith on others. We have to recognize that we have unique journeys in faith. You've discovered the truth, you become an Adventist, God took you into that journey. You have to be patient with someone else. And if that person is the person in your life right now, just continue showing them the love of Christ. All right, love them the way Jesus would love them. Yeah, and that's coming from a pastoral perspective, because I do not have that experience. I'm a fourth generation Adventist, and Joy was born an Adventist as well. Joy is a daughter of a pastor, by the way. A pastor. She came from a pastoral family. Yeah, and I'm a fourth generation Adventist. So we haven't gone through that challenge. But again, Joy, I think, highlighted something very important, that in a marriage relationship, there will always be times when there are tensions, so there are conflicts, so there are disagreements. And in these areas, you have to find a way to walk together and find a common ground by God's grace. But I think in terms of fight, just love them and show them what Christianity is all about. True Christianity is all about.
I think to add to that as well, it can be a challenge to find a good Adventist husband or wife. And what we have the tendency to do is we push people towards an Adventist who mightn't be a good person. So when you are looking for a husband or a wife, don't have Adventist as your high quality. Have a Christian as your high quality, because I've seen so many marriages that have broken because they have put Adventist first. And my friend even said to me, she dated Adventist guys and they were the worst guys that she actually ever dated, that she actually dated guys who weren't in the church, and they treated her a lot better. So if that is a quality you're looking for in your spouse, pick a good one. Don't pick them just because they're Adventist, because it can bring problems as well if they're not a good person, or you don't know them that well, but you've gone that route because you just want an Adventist partner. So take time to get to know them, take time to pray about it, and look for those red flags that might come up. But definitely, I wouldn't go. I would say pick a Christian, but ideally we say Adventist, but a good Christian spouse to take you on that journey with you, and one that respects you.
Because I think when we say someone's Adventist, they're not always a Bible believing, close to Jesus Adventist, right? They may be kind of baptized a long time ago, but kind of really their heart's nowhere near Christ, right? So really what I think the ideal is, from a biblical perspective, as Ben was talking from a pastoral perspective, and Joy was talking about 1 Corinthians, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that. That when Paul talks about unequally yoked, this is really important, because we live in a country, if you live in Ireland here, right, there's 1,500 Adventists on the island of Ireland altogether. So it may be that because you're looking for an Adventist and someone who's like faith and someone who's close to Jesus, you may need to travel. You may need to go to London. You may need to go to Manchester. You may need to go to youth events or youth congresses, because these are the places you can find other committed Christians who are Adventists as well, right? And so I really do believe that, and it's hard to do that, right? But maybe through that traveling and things, God will lead you to someone in that sense.
It's putting in the hard work to find a good Adventist.
Yeah. And the danger is, I think, just to say, oh, well, there's not anybody around, so I'm just going to marry someone who's not a Christian. And I think from a biblical perspective and a practical perspective, that brings a lot of challenges. Into not insurmountable challenges, but there's a reason the biblical guidance is there. Marry someone of like faith, because if you don't, your value system's completely different.
Yeah, and it's very important what Heather said, but I love what Joy said, that when she was looking for, a future husband, that like she was praying for somebody who would love God more than anything, and even more than her. Now, I have one question. It is very difficult. Difficult question in a sense to answer, I think. But it is, so what support or advice would you give to a single parent who has lost hope on finding love, or which support or which events would you recommend, and especially if they have children?
Sorry, Melita, can you kindly repeat that question, please?
Yes. So, like, what support would you advise to, what support, maybe what materials, like books or events to attend, would you recommend to a single parent who has lost hope on finding love, and especially if they have children as well?
That's a very good question. The thing is, who has lost hope in finding love? Is that the person's desire to find love, or is it the community the person is in that's asking or pressuring that person to find love? Because the thing is, being single can be a blessing. Paul didn't have a family, and it was no big deal. I think the whole culture right now is so fixated with having the marriage relationship. Okay, having said that, I know there's so many different kinds of colors of relationships now, but the whole culture that we have is that we must be attached to somebody, to have a partner, to share life with someone. I think it's but Jesus had said that, help me out here, pastors, but I feel like some people are called to live a single life. I don't know. Is that right?
And you can be complete without someone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can be a complete person without someone. And we should recognize that, I think.
maybe in the idea where the single parent is really looking for someone to love. I cannot help in that. So
So again, being single or being a single parent, there is absolutely no reason to be hopeless. All right, as Joy mentioned, you don't find love only in a relationship between a husband and a wife. All right, love, you can find love everywhere, and to me, it's being able to find a supportive environment where you and your children, or you as a single parent with your children, or in your singleness, that you experience love, no matter whether you are in a relationship, a serious relationship or not, or with someone who is going to be a husband or a wife. Love is there, all right, and you can experience it.
Just to look at that scenario for a second, you said that somebody is a single parent and obviously there's children involved. So at some point in time, this person was in a relationship with somebody else. So now there's children involved and this person, for some reason, have separated. You're not saying they were married before, but there seems to be a single parent with children. So the scenario is this person is now trying to find love as maybe in a relationship, obviously in that format. But the point I would say that that parent would be very, for her or him, as the case would be, it doesn't always have to be a lady actually, may have to, it's important that the children are nurtured by this parent, single parent, because the children are very vulnerable in that situation. So they need love and they need, so I would encourage that person to be in a church fellowship, if possible, to be able to go, to be in an environment where there's a Christian emphasis on the family, in the home, and to be in a church environment. And I think the situation is quite a few people where they find it hard to get into a relationship, because you can imagine if you are a single parent and you have children, and it could be maybe older, and so it's not so easy to meet somebody that would just connect with you, maybe, or the children. Sometimes they connect with the parent, but not necessarily with the children. So it's a difficult situation. So what really is required there is that they have first of all, the parent would have a relationship with God and a relationship with the children, and would look after the children, and then we pray that the Lord would send somebody that would take that, because you're actually taking on a full family now. So if you meet somebody like that, they already have a family, and you're in that relationship. There needs to be a very strong bond between the two people. So that takes time as well. So patience is very important, and not to be run ahead of God either. I want somebody right now. So that, unfortunately, sometimes people go down that road, and you find out that there's a problem with the relationship. And then the children are the people who come out the worst out of that situation. So being single in a case like this is not the easiest scenario, but at times you just have to be patient and look after the family that you do have, and ask God then to send somebody. That's God's will. That's why I would encourage people just to be aware that it's not always to have somebody is not the answer sometimes to the problem. It's to look to safeguard the situation you're in. Yeah.
I was going to say, I come from a single parent family. My dad was single parent. When after my mom died, he had a failed relationship within a year, kind of thing, and so I can't think about it. I don't think about the question necessarily from the parent's perspective. I actually think about it from the child's perspective, or the teenager's perspective, or whatever it might be. It's not easy to have someone suddenly come into your family. It's not easy to have suddenly two half siblings or something like that you don't get along with, right? So it's a tough situation to be in, and I'd say it just has to be I would want to pray a lot in that situation, because it's a huge
Take
impact
time.
and take time. Yeah, don't rush into anything. More importantly, yeah.
Melita, that person, if that person is real, let them contact one of the pastors. So because there is a spiritual need that needs to be filled, as well as community, because yeah, something like that.
Now, from a pastor's perspective here, we have a lot of single parents in the church, and I've had conversations with single parents. All right, and what I would always say is that, there are priority relationships in front of you right now, and Pastor Tony and Pastor Adam highlighted this already. You have your children, or you have a child. That is a priority relationship in front of you. All right, give that priority. Now, I'm not saying you close your door to other possible relationships out there, but make sure that you prioritize the relationships that are in front of you. All right, and then make sure that you become part of a community of faith, that you experience the support and the love that you can find in that community of faith. Right, surround yourself with people, all right, who can give you the support that you need. But again, it's important, and Pastor Adam highlighted it, because sometimes, you can think of, you can just focus on yourself, but actually you're missing out that there are other needs there. And Pastor Adam highlighted the needs of the child or the children as well. And that is a very important relationship. There is a loving, satisfying relationship there that you're going to miss out if you're going to go out and pursue a relationship that is not there yet. All right, and you're going to take that for granted. And it's important to, make sure that those relationships in front of you are valued.
Hmm. There's a lot that has been said, and I really hope it was useful. Yes, it is a real person and a very specific somebody. Of course, I'm not gonna say who. Um, so I really hope this helped a little bit more. And we also have Instagram page, IMASA, and we have, of course, YouTube page. This is going to be live streamed YouTube, so you can contact us as well, and then we can also maybe put you in contact with Adam or Ben or Tony as well, and to find more like support groups. I have one question here, and it's related to a little bit to a previous question.
Can I just say something, Melita?
Yeah.
If you're a single person, single parent, you do an amazing job. Basically,
Amen.
and there's one of you doing an amazing job. Whether the person's here or not, yep, every single parent does an amazing job.
And thank you for that, and thank you for interrupting me, because it's something that is very important for single parents to know. Of course, I have no right to say anything because I'm not a parent, and moreover, I'm not a single parent, and I can only imagine the difficulties. But I really appreciate that comment, Adam, especially for you, that you shared your story, and the things more. So a little bit the question that has been previous, how Heather, you said that it's for the girls, not that Adventism, like the Adventist guy, just because he is an Adventist, it shouldn't be the top priority to date him, or the top priority to marry him. And I have one question that says, do you think it's important to date and marry someone who shares your faith?
I think it's definitely it is definitely important, and I don't want anybody to get me wrong with what I say, in that I'm not advising you to marry non-Adventists, but I'm saying pick a good Adventist, and you have to put your work in. And there's many a relationship that of friends of mine who are Adventists who are not married to Adventists. and their relationships are working because they've found a good Christian husband. And I think that's the challenge here within the Irish mission, is because there's so few Adventists to pick from. And for some, I would say that as I said, when they pick an Adventist quality, but they're picking them because they're Adventist over other things, it doesn't mean the relationship's going to work, because you may be both Adventist, but they may not be walking the same faith journey as you. So it's important that you find a good Adventist Christian. And if you can't find a good Adventist Christian, well, then, and you do find a Christian of another faith, well, it has to be somebody who respects your faith, but you also have to respect their faith. And like I have, as I said, I have friends, and they have children. The children go to church on both Saturday and Sunday, and the parents are supportive of that, but that's because the work was put in beforehand and they had those conversations. And I think, while the ideal is that we marry Adventist, it can be challenging to find a good Adventist spouse, because a lot of the times we're carrying the name Adventist, but we're not living the Christian life. And yeah.
All I would say is, and I've advised people this before, don't marry someone that doesn't have the value of faith that you do. Literally don't. I mean, you're in for a real challenging time if you don't, because faith is one of these. It's not just a head thing; it's a heart thing. And so, if your heart is not in the same place, both of you, right, it's going to be a challenge. So just don't do it. Because, and if you do it though, right, or you have done it, and you're married to someone who's isn't of like faith or isn't an Adventist, stick with it, because it's a biblical principle to stick with it, right? And God, if you have done it, God's not going to turn his back on you, right? He's going to want to bless your marriage as much as possible. But I think it's harder, immensely harder, if you don't share the same value systems. And a biblical value system is so different from the value system of somebody who doesn't have a biblical value system, I would say. And that's not thinking about Adventists and not
Can I say something? It's just a weird observation that I'm finding, really. A lot of Adventists have lists of what they want in another Adventist, for example. And it feels like it's so hard. They're put off by those Adventists, and they're looking for like people who live dangerously, adventurous and things like that. And the people in the Adventist people are so proper and so churchy. They're not living dangerously. There's no adventure in them. So they because I'm wondering, there's like gatherings of in the Philippines. I'm thinking about the Philippines, right? There's loads of Adventists there. There's a gathering of Adventist kids, and they don't quite like each other. It's so weird. So I'm just thinking like that, I think it's very important to what is it? Be obedient. Be obedient, or ask the Lord to guide you, or I don't know.
And I would just like to add very quickly, like, it's very important to find a nice person who respects you. But when it comes to faith, for example, if you're an Adventist, for example, and if you date or marry a Catholic, for example, or anybody else, just for example, marriage is something that is commitment for all your life. You want somebody who will pray for you, who will kneel down for you, who will push you more towards God. Now, I'm not saying that the other faith cannot do it. I'm not saying that, but think about more in the future, not just today's feelings, because you're going to have kids one day. How are you going to raise your kids? What belief? They are going to hear one side of the story, they're gonna hear another side of the story. They can go to church on Saturday, they can go to church on Sunday, but like, will it be confusing to them? Why don't you agree? More questions, like, are they going to be more confused about God, who God actually is? It's just more questions to consider, especially if you're planning to marry, a serious relationship, as it will end up in marriage. And I have a question that was asked before, and it is personal to the couples. So, what did your spouse do, or what quality they revealed in the first year of marriage that surprised you? Like, did your spouse have some quality, or did they do something that you didn't expect, that was very shocking or surprising to you?
I think the thing with Ben and myself is that it is so true that the first 2 years are like the rockiest of you're being married together. But then that's the thing about love, Melita. I don't know if this question is from you or from someone else. The thing about love is um, it has to grow, and you will realize that it's not worth it looking for the faults. First Corinthians 13 says, love does not keep a record of wrongs. You don't intentionally keep a record of wrongs. When you love someone, you just don't keep a record of wrongs. I feel like I come from a point where I'm grateful that he chooses me every day, something like that. I don't know about the other couples, but I'm just grateful that he chooses me, that I'm the luckiest person that after 21 years he still chooses me. Because there was one time, I remember, I think Ben knows about this. One time I told him, when we get together, when we're married, and then we'll probably get tired of each other. We'll probably get tired of each other. What can you say about that? And then you'll probably think about finding other girls, something like that. And then he says something like this. He says, I will not guarantee you that I will not be attracted to other girls. I will not guarantee that to you, but this I will guarantee: every day I will make an effort to choose you. So every day I live by that promise that he has. I don't know if he intentionally thinks about that promise, but I if I'm still the one he chooses today, wow, thank you, Budsy. So I come from a point of gratitude. But when it comes to like what other things he could do, if I would just put on the lens of looking at what many other things he can do that will disappoint me, and I'm thinking, what if he has also his own lenses to use? Like, he would look at the things that would disappoint him about me, and then where would we all both be? So that's where I'm coming from in that regard.
Yeah, it was a question that was asked somewhere on the platform, whether here in chat or on the YouTube. So I was just wondering to hear. Well, it doesn't have to be disappointing thing. It may be something like shocking, like in a good thing that you didn't know that person would do, but they did anyway.
Well, Adam used to cook because he lived alone for himself, and I thought when we got married that I was going to have a husband who cooked. But
so very wrong.
From after we got married, I soon realized that was my role, was to cook. Otherwise, we were going to eat pasta for the rest of our lives.
But you're so much better at it than me.
So, but yeah, I find that I cooked better, so it was okay.
I'll cook you beans on toast every day if you want it.
Yes. When we get married, I was the one who cooked when we got married. All right. So I think if you ask me, Melita, something that surprised me now, or still continue to surprise me now, it's how good a cook Joy is now. She actually cooks better than me now. It's like she's the queen of the kitchen. I never thought that that day would come, by the way.
Credits to my ban. What was that, Heather? Baking and bake and banter. I forgot our name. That's that group.
Banter and bake.
Yes, banter. Yeah. Oh, praise the Lord for that group.
I think what surprised us, I think, very early after we got married, is we traveled. We actually went to Newfoundland very, very quickly after getting married. I think we surprised each other that we would like to do that, because to just move at the time was a big change, I think. And the country was different, lovely snow there in wintertime. And I think that we've always done that. We've moved 13 times already to different countries. And so we're still, I think we're a little bit like the traveling community, we don't see things like, this is the thing I think about faith, is that we don't see things as permanent. When you're a Christian, we're like pilgrims, we don't see, oh, this is it, we're going to do this, and we're not going to do anything else for the rest of our lives. I think we should always, be willing to have a venture. I think that's what I'd like to say. In a marriage, there should be a little bit of a venture, a little bit of, we don't have to have everything, in other words, take risks, do things. And it's I think looking back, we went to New Zealand when the kids were very young. We sold everything. We had nothing left behind here, and everything we had was just in our cases, basically. And we bought the kids. The reason being that we didn't have a secondary school here for the children, an Adventist school. So we went to Christchurch, and it turns out Pastor Stephen was there for quite a while in Christchurch. But that's why we just wanted to give them that opportunity to see another aspect of, I guess, of our church, being able to go to that Adventist school there. And looking back now, is for the children in particular, it has been a great learning curve. Okay, so I think in every marriage, we should always be willing to be a little bit, excitement, I guess. Have a little bit of adventure. You don't have to have everything calculated. I think for me, I hope that he agrees with me on that. Well, I think there's got to be certainly some joy and adventure and stepping out in faith, and I think if you lose that, you get very comfortable and you get into a rut. Now we're married a few years, but we're not in a rut by any means. We have lots of plans, but first of all, I believe, I can just share one verse that I always had when it comes to doing anything, and it's very simple. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." I have to say that was one of the things that I always will pray, and we'll still pray about decisions we have to make. We still have lots of things to do, but I think in ministry, when you come into ministry, because don't forget, I didn't come into ministry earlier on. In the last 14 years this year I've been in ministry, but I was in construction for quite a long time, and Betty was in nursing. But when you come into ministry, there are things that you leave aside while in ministry. I think anybody would agree with that, because God's work comes first, where that's it, and that has been the way. So even then, our journey in ministry has been always very interesting, to say the least, and always something to look forward to. Even tonight, thank you for inviting us, Betty and I, to come along, because this is great. We're listening to where people are coming from, what's happening in people's lives. And, marriage, we go through roller coasters, ups and downs, but I think when prayer is very important in a relationship and marriage, and forgiveness is very important. We're not perfect, Betty will tell you that. And as Joy said, if we look at the big magnifying glass, we'll see lots of faults. But when we look with somehow, I think that the fact is we are together, and God somehow allowed us to be together. We have a different attitude to each other, and we have respect, and we have the best wishes for each other. And then our children, don't forget, the children always see what goes on in the home, and if to see that we're not perfect. They tell you that. Ask your children. But one thing they should see, that we have a certain respect for each other, and that we laugh as well. We're not like robots. We have feelings. We express them. Sometimes we get a little bit, mad at each other. But there's also that element of forgiveness and praying together. It's very. I think when young people see you kneeling down as a husband and wife, and they're going out to work and they see you praying, I tell you one thing: that is a powerful witness. Does that mean all going to be adventists? No, that just means that they know that we have a relationship with God. It's that simple. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yes, be adventurous. I would say, as a couple, or a family, and always, push out the borders a bit. Don't live in a comfort zone, because there's no excitement in that at all.
Quick question here.
Yes.
It's for all of you, pastors. One thing I've noticed is that all of you are of the same race, or from the same cultural heritage. Now, seeing here, like for me and most other people living here in Ireland, we are immigrants, and our church is quite diverse. So I wanted to ask, like, what advice would you give? Like, say maybe if you are approaching someone of a different race or of a different culture, it can be something which is quite tough, because even God was telling the Israelites to marry their own people, because marrying your own people is quite easier than someone who is of a different culture or different race. So what kind of advice would you give? Like, say maybe even if it's an Adventist person, but maybe they're of a different culture, they grew up differently from you.
Yeah. Can I answer that and I'm sure the other pastors will answer it too. From my observation, I think that definitely people get into relationships on maybe just to get to know each other initially. But I think the more they get together, sometimes because the cultures have different values sometimes, and different expectations, especially even with a language barrier, if they don't speak the same language, definitely can be tricky at times for that communication, just to understand how they relate to each other. And I would advise, if somebody is in a relationship with somebody from outside their culture, to go back to wherever that person comes from and spend some time there. Understand the culture more, get to know what the family are like, mingle a little bit, so you get an idea where they're coming from. And if you meet them in Ireland, they know what in Irish culture, especially if they were coming from an Irish background. Because I think in relationships, while they're at the honeymoon stages, everything is rosy. There's no problem whatsoever. It's when and I noticed this when the families were here for quite a long time, especially the young people, they don't see their home country anymore as their home. It's right now they're in Ireland, and that's where they feel is their home. But when their parents get older, there's a sense of their parents now are drawn back to their parents, will say, or grannies in this case, grannies and granddads. And it's a very difficult place to be, because they want to go back to their families where they feel they belong, and yet the children are maybe in a relationship and say here, and it's a difficult place to be. So I would say in the early stages of a relationship, get to know the culture of the people that you're interacting with, especially if it's in a relationship. Go there, get to know them, and then make some decisions, based on that. That's all I can. I hope that's some way helpful to you, my friend.
Yeah, well answered. Thank you, Pastor.
Let me actually add something to that, but I would like to highlight what Pastor Stone said a while back about excitement in your relationship. I hope that when you get married, do not stop bringing excitement into your relationship. All right, allow surprises to happen, even little surprises. Allow those little surprises to happen. Now, of course, don't expect surprises, but allow surprises to happen. Okay. Now, to the question about being from different cultures. Now, although me and Joe were both Filipinos, all right, but we have to recognize that we're still two different people. Me and Joy are still two different people, although we come from the same cultural background, but we are absolutely different from each other. Personality, temperament, our family background. Joy comes from a small family unit. I come from a very big family unit. So when Joy married me, she actually married into a very big, expanded family. And in some way, that's a different cultural experience, all right? But what I would like to say here is that recognizing your differences, me and Joy's differences, uh, I have to embrace accommodation and acceptance. And that means that I accept Joy for who she is. And I had to adapt in those differences as well. And I think there must be a learning towards appreciation and affirmation as well. Yes, there are things that we are different, but we support each other. You know, something that I would always say to people in a relationship, and even in a church context, by the way, we all have handicaps. I have a handicap, I have a weakness, but we are together because we feel each other's handicap. And so that means that in Joy, I find someone who feels my handicap, and I hope that Joy finds in me someone who feels her handicap as well. And so we strengthen each other. And I think we have to see that when we recognize those differences that we have. Those differences are not reasons for us to push each other apart. They should actually be the ones that should bring us together. Yeah, I think that's my 2 cents here as far as that question is concerned.
And I think to add to that, Tash, is it's mutual respect, because cultures can be very different in how they view life. And it will be a case of having to change your viewpoint maybe on certain things or how you look at something, but the both of yous, it should be you both are able to meet in the middle. But then another challenge comes is when you get married and you have in-laws. And I know that while you two might have or the couple might have met a mutual agreement on how they're going to do life together from two different cultures, the parents mightn't see that. And I think that's where there can be challenges. And I think from the start, it's letting your parents also know, your family know, do you know what? This is how our life is going to be different from what maybe you expect, because when you choose someone to be your wife, you choose them to be the first, apart from God, the first person in your life. And that means you put them first. So it is not just you as a couple working through those differences, but letting your family also know these are the choices that we have made. When we have our children, this is going to happen. This is how our marriage ceremony is going to be. And the both of you agreeing and making sure your family are aware that this is where you have reached your point in your relationship.
Yeah, I think that history, like Tony said, get to know the culture if it's a different culture. And even when it's the same culture, there's many things that are different, right? Like I think Ben said as well. But yeah, and don't assume because someone's Adventist from one culture and Adventist from another culture, they have the same culture, because they don't, right? Adventism, you know, if you were to bring an Adventist from one culture to another culture, they might be completely different people, right? Because sometimes our view of Adventism, our practices within Adventism can be completely different when we come from different parts of the world. So it's just something to be aware of, really. And it takes time to work through it, that's all, and be open with each other and honest.
There's good news in the Bible, Tash, for families that are blended, culturally, because Jesus comes from a blended family. His great grandmother was a Moabitess, who was from a very different culture, and Jesus came. He identifies with that difference, and he came through that line. So there's good news that whatever differences we come from, when at the feet of Jesus can take care. The hand of God is not too short to save.
Can I just add something to that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go on.
Thank you, Joy, for what you just said there. I would also say that before you get into that marriage, invest a lot in your premarital preparations. Premarital counseling will bring out a lot. You'll get to learn a lot about yourself. You get to learn a lot about your will-be partner. You get learn a lot. So you have, sometimes young people might think, why do we have to go through 3-4 months or whatever of counseling and therapy? We are in love. All that matters is love. And I think all the pastors here have touched on that. When you are in the honeymoon stage and all that you see, beautiful, bright stars in your eyes and all of that, those times are going to pass. And then you have to really roll up your sleeves and start dealing with those real hard stuff. But if you really spend a lot of time getting to know each other and investing in premarital counseling properly, you will be well prepared. Doesn't mean challenges won't come, but you'll be well equipped to deal with those challenges when they come. And that's very, very important. I believe that a lot of interracial marriages that have worked, and as Pastor Adam has just said, just because somebody is an Adventist in Namibia and you are in Ireland and you all believe in Ellen White, you all believe, it doesn't necessarily mean your marriage is going to work. Personalities, communication differences, and many other things will come into play. But if you invest and commit yourself to working through this, you will have all the tools and the skills to work through the difficulties. You will talk about, how do we deal with our in-laws? How do we deal with our parents? How do we set boundaries so that others don't get to dictate how we live our marital lives and all of that? As Heather just said that, understanding these things and investing into it, and don't just run in there because you're in love and you can't wait for the next Valentine. You want to be married on Valentine's Day. So, just make time for yourself and get ready for it. And it works. Tash, it works. A lot of interracial marriages have worked, but it requires work. Thank you.
I really thank you for Tash. Thank you so much for asking that question, because it was such an important question, especially here. As we, each one of us here come from different culture, different backgrounds, different countries, and it's really important to know that. And I'm very sad because there's so many questions, and there's not many time to answer it. But I'm sure that we are going to do another meeting like this, where we are going to, answer the other questions as well from different maybe perspectives. Somebody wrote in the chat a quote that I like. It says, "Before you look for the right person, be the right person. You need to know your values, know where you stand with God, and communicate with other person." And I speak that for all the people, but especially for the people that are like my age, like 20, younger than 20, a bit older than 20. We watch movies and we always hear like, oh, the other half, like, and everybody as well, you want to find your other half. And one pastor told me something that is so deep. He said, no, don't look for your other half. You're one person. Be one with God. When you're looking for the person, look somebody who is also one with God. So yes, you are two individuals, and when you get married, you're also one together and one with God. But never put yourself into half, because the other person is never going to fulfill you. Only God can do it. But when you have the other person, it's another blessing. Um, and I would like to ask Betty, do you want to pray for us for the closing prayer, please?
Yes, okay, let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks now for the wonderful discussion tonight, and for the wonderful contributions of each person on the panel, and for the wonderful questions too, Lord. They're very pertinent questions and important to people to ask them. And we do pray a blessing on each person who's looking in. I pray to learn something Lord, about you, and something about what it is to have relationships and to love each other and have stickability and all the qualities that it takes. And none of us has all the qualities, that's for sure, but we do our very best, Lord, with your help. So we thank you for that. So, Lord, I pray continue to guide and direct each one of us, whether we be in marriage relationship or we're starting relationships or we're looking for a relationship, Lord. May you guide and direct each one, direct their path, Lord, to the right person for them, that have a fulfilling marriage, Lord, but especially to put you first in their relationship and in their home. So I pray a blessing on all these things now. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Betty, for praying. And I want to thank each one of the couples first for agreeing to this, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I thank for everybody who joined here and for everybody who is watching online. I really hope that you had a blessed time with us, and you can always reach us. We have YouTube page, IMASA. The Instagram page is imasa.ai. And you can also check our previous speaks on many different topics, mental health, racism, so many topics that are not spoken enough today. And I'm sure that we are going to have another discussion of the relationships. And I want to thank you also for everybody who asked the questions, because I saw in the chat and people asking questions, and that's really made me happy, because it means that you listened. And I hope that everybody who asked the question, that you found and got the answer. And I see here in the chat, please organize session 2, and we will work on it. So thank you and happy Sabbath, everyone. And I hope you're gonna have a great rest tomorrow. Well, today.
Everybody, good night.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
Bert.